Working on the grill today. I'm going to make a good video of this. Doesn't that look good? I got that all polished up by my stainless steel polisher. Oh, I did put the ornament on. There's four 3BA bolts that hold them on and a washer from the bottom. So that's how that goes on. I'll show you a picture of that later. But coming on over here, I want to show you right there. This one, you can see, is shorter than that one. Okay, I'm going to go up here. This is the grill, of course, the main part of the car as I'm concerned. But I got these redone and professionally polished, and I'm putting them back together, and it takes a couple hundred rivets. I'm not kidding. You better buy 2 boxes of them there. But you know, I'm using a good, you can use stainless steel, but I like just to use the steel ones. I don't really, this one isn't going to take a lot of outdoor bad weather or anything, but never know. I went ahead and did these two, and you can use any old rivet gun because you can get in from the outside to rivet the hard one, but I'm going to get in here and show you how you got to start riveting them now, because after those two and those two, it really becomes difficult if you don't have the right tool. First of all, before you put any of these dealies in like this, and that's how they slide, I'll show you how they slide in there. I take a rivet and poke it in the hole because it's easier to drill them. See, that doesn't go in there. Sometimes when you drill the rivets out, I use a little bit bigger because these are modern rivets. The rivets they had, I think, were a little smaller. So these holes get drilled out as you drill the original rivets out on most of them, but if the rivets popped out or something, you may not get this hole drilled out. So I have a drill, and I take a pair of pliers and I drill it out. Okay, pliers in hand, then I'm going to take my drill and I'm just going to lightly hit that hole. So I open it up, so now I can get my rivet in there. And that's, I don't know if you can get metric rivets or whatever, but to get them out, you got to drill them out anyway, so I just use the right. The holes in the metal are the right size, surprisingly. I don't know, they were a little bigger to get the rivets in or something, but there you go. So I'm going to get this, before we go away here, these have a left and a right. The left, you want these facing so that you see the top of them. You don't want to see them that way. So where you got the top of the grill here, and this is funny, the top is silver, and the bottom I'm going to put on here after a while, but the bottom here is black. So CAD plated. These are all CAD plated. But what happens here is these, and usually this is bent up a tad here, but you got to hold them in there, okay, get them in the right direction. And usually there's a place in there, and you push them down a little bit, and they'll be sticking up, but they're just light. You can push them down when you put the rivet through them. So next thing I'm going to do is put this down here, get it lined up, and get a couple of rivets in it, and then I'll show you my new rivet tool. It's actually an airplane tool, but I found it online, and it's the greatest steel to do this with. The lining up, I got it there where I want it, but you'll note in here, you got the 2 holes, then the 2 holes through the, when I say 2, 1, 2, then you got them through your nice polished piece there. Doesn't that look good? And I don't know what you actually call these, leaves or whatever. It's a grill after you get it put together. Then you got the ones you just stuck in there, and the rivet is going to go in there like so. Okay, and go through that and go through this one. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get all one there, and then two going this end. So what I'm going to try to do is get one in each one of those so it's kind of lined up. And then I'll do the top two first. And I will use my pop riveter. Now this is important, and I'm sure you can read that. Okay. That's the part number, I believe. And this is who makes it. So you got that? And that's the only thing, because it's a tight place and it'll fit in there, because otherwise you can't get in there to put that pop rivet in there. And that fits in there at an angle where it misses this stuff just perfectly. So that's a special tool, and it's not a cheap tool, but you almost have to have it. I tried 2 or 3 different pop rivet tools, and none of them would come close to getting in there. So, okay, I'll show you an end rivet here. And I can use my specialty tool, but it's kind of easier on these to just use a regular. This thing has a bigger grip and all of that, but you make sure you get it pushed in there and it's all the way in, and you give it a good squeeze, and sometimes you have to let it go and slide it up and do it again. And I make sure I get all these little things out of the way, because they'll scratch the heck out of your you notice I got a nice towel down there, but I don't leave a lot of stuff laying around that I can scrape it when I'm flipping it back and forth. And hopefully now I'll show you my new tool. This rivet gun that I've just been bragging all over, but I've done several of these now. But you have to have, this is spring loaded, and I don't know if there's a way to lock that open, but you know, you got to have it all the way open. I fished my rivet through there, and of course the little hole in the rivet gun goes on that sucker. So you got to let it off. It's got to be all the way out, or it won't go in there. Alright, I'm all the way in there now. And then you got to make sure you push it up against that other piece like it wants to go. And then you pull it. And usually one good pull will snap it. So my shoulder probably was in the way of most of that, but I bet it was in the way of all of that. We'll have to take a look at it. Okay, I'm getting better at this, so anyway, you'll see I got my pieces in there nice and straight. I got my rivets in there, both of them in there, and I'm going to put my finger on each one of those, and I'm going to get them started in the holes there and there. So I'm going to come on in and get that started in there. Sometimes you got to push it a little bit. Use something to push it with. Yeah, I'm going to take that out and push on the end one. There we go. There we go. Okay, so I got those two started. I'm going to kind of hold it in place. I'm not real pretty doing this, am I? Then I'm going to get the two in this end, like so, just as a placeholder. Then I'm going to grab my tool, open it all the way. Make sure I'm through that hole. I can see it down there. You go like that, you push it together, you squeeze it. You got that, you put it together, you squeeze it until it pops. And that pulls that together. And I can do the other one, hopefully. Yeah, that's enough of that. I'm going to do that one, and then I'm going to do the end too. Okay, warning, Rogers. Warning, Will Rogers. Trying to throw a few jokes into this boring video. The last one here, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of them in. There's 10 on a side. You notice anything different about this one? There's no tab coming out here that gets in your way to rivet it. All the rest of these had 2 tabs on the back, so as you looked at it, you had a hard time getting a rivet gun in. But this last one you want to leave out because you can rivet it from the back and get into it real easy. But this allows you to bring this other side over and get your rivet gun in and do what you need to do. So I'm going to lay this one to the side until I get all the other ones in on the other side. See these 2 clips? See how that isn't square? That's bent, and you're not going to be able to work with that. So you got to take it, and usually it's bent right in here, so you just kind of grab it and bend it back a little bit. But you want those nice and square going in, and you want this so it's square in and out. So that's that one. It's the top one that's the problem. Yeah, if they're not pretty square, when you put the rivet in, it'll be loose. So I take my trusty pliers and I bend those so they're nice and square. Oh, the other thing is when you lay these in the rail, what you want to do when you go up and shove it in, well, I'll be shoving that in the next one, of course. It's going to go like this. But when you shove it up in there, you want to make sure, I was checking, it looked like there was rust all over that, and I was not going to put that in if there was rust on it. But anyway, when you shove that in there, you got to make sure this is flat, because you can shove that in there where, you know, this thing's cockeyed like that or like that. You want a nice even look and them going across. You can see these, I don't know what the angle of the camera, but they're nice and straight. Everybody might wonder what I did to my wrists. I was alligator hunting down in Florida and kind of overdid it and twisted my wrist. This neat rivet tool, you can see it's in there, it's locked to the rivet. I'm going to reach my hand underneath here and kind of hold that as I push it in. But once I've got it like that, I can just set the rivet. Pops off of there and away you go. And see, you can't get any type of normal rivet gun in there to, you know, do that kind of thing. So that's a wonderful tool. I think it's 160 bucks or something, but those pieces I said, beware Mr. Robinson. Those go in last, and see, they don't have those tabs on them. 2 tabs, they got 1 tab. So you can get into it from the back, otherwise there's not enough room from the front to get any kind of rivet gun in there. My lovely wife just walked by. And you also know them because they got 2 holes in them, and there's going to be a plate that goes on them. So I'm going to go ahead and rivet that in, and then I'm going to put the one on the other side and rivet it in, and then we'll do some plates. Now that I got those last 2 beware pieces in, rivet them on from the back, this one's a little crooked. And you can see this doesn't quite line up. There's a small plate that goes on the top of it. So I'm going to tap those and get those in line. And if they're not square, you can take and you can bend them a little bit. So anyway, the square plate here goes in. And I ground some of these off, so I put that ground side down so you get a nice smooth side on the top there. And of course you do put it on the top. And you get that one in. And you get this one in. Which sometimes this thing, you've got to bow it out a little bit and that type of thing. So I'm going to go ahead and use I love this thing. It wasn't a cheap tool, but man. Now I'm not going to do that all the way. I'm just going to do that enough so it doesn't come out of there. And then I'm going to make sure my bottom two get started. I think I could have got them in there anyway, but you got to be careful with this stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and finish that one off. And I'm going to finish this one off. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do that one. And there's another plate right here, and then I'm going to do that plate. But boy, if you don't do that in that order, you can't get her done. Okay, I started the bottom piece, and I'm going to show that to you. I usually start a bunch of pop rivets, but the amazing thing is, well, I started these in the middle to hold it, but you got the idea with that, unless if you don't, you shouldn't be working on a Rolls Royce, let me tell you. But these things seem to bring in at the bottom, and I didn't realize that. There's a little bit of swoop to them. They're just not straight up and down. It's probably optical, but anyway, I've never noticed that on the car. Okay, I've worked all of these around and I've got all the rivets started. The reason I do that is sometimes the ends of them aren't quite even and you pull them in and one's hard to move and you don't want to bend anything. But I start from the inside and, go back and forth, but I'm going to work my way out and pop all those in. Isn't that a piece of work? I'm kind of doing this for my buddy Bob down in Florida. He asked me some questions about color of stuff in a grill. And that's, well, I got handprints all over it, but that's how a grill's supposed to look. And I used probably, I didn't count them, but 130 rivets maybe to rivet all that back together. It was an incredible amount. A couple of things here on the grill. I put this in, and there's 3 studs, and they go right through the hole, and I use that tape technique where I put tape in the socket, and then I tape the nut and washers on it. It gets a washer and a lock washer, but 3 of them up there, and you can see these go on those funny studs, and same thing, there's a washer, lock washer, and a nut, and those are half nuts, by the way. So anyway, we've got that done. The next thing I'm doing here is putting this and your bonnet rests on it, and the first thing you got to do is get an ice pick, and there's 2 stainless steel staples that go through there. God knows why they used a staple. But they go on the back side here. You can see I haven't bent these over yet, but I use a pair of these pliers like this, and when I get them started, I grab it from the side and push it through the material, but I start the holes with that ice pick right there from both sides. And then it simply weaves under, back up, and then under, and it finishes with a little screw here, which I got laying over here, and a nut and a washer. And that's a V-headed screw.